think we're going to go ahead and begin. Thank you. Welcome to Kansas City, Kansas. Welcome to the Kansas Speech Communication Association 2014 convention. If you don't know me, my name is Darren Elliott. I'm the Director of Debate at Kansas City, Kansas Community College. I'm the first Vice President, I think. I say I think because first Vice President plans the convention, which I did, but I also know that if the President becomes incapacitated, it's my job to take over. And that may have happened 2 Long Island iced teas ago.
We couldn't have booze down here,
So I'm somewhere between the first Vice Presidency and the Presidency. Hope that you are, hope that you had a good time on the first day of the convention at the college. I hope that everything went well, and if you need anything, please let me know. We're always excited to host people on our campus, and I take a great deal of care and pride to make sure we do the things people want us to do, so our guests say, you know, I'd like to go back there, and you're certainly welcome back anytime. We hope that you're having a good time. It's my pleasure to introduce our welcome speaker. I honestly, truly wish for everyone in this room that you had an administrator as good as the administrator that's about to welcome you to the college and to Kansas City, Kansas. A lot of you in this room have heard me brag before about our college and about the support our program has. The administrator that's primarily responsible for that support is here tonight, and so he's going to say some words of welcome, and then we'll get to eat after that. So our Vice President of Administrative Services, Mr. Brian Bodie.
I wrote a speech, and I thought, what the hell did you write a speech for? You're talking to all professional speech educators. And whatever you do, it's not going to cut the mustard anymore. Welcome to Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and welcome to Kansas City, Kansas. Dr. Doris Gibbons, our president, the Board of Trustees of the college, the faculty, staff, and administration, we all welcome you here today. Dr. Gibbons sends her apologies. She's committed somewhere else tonight. And I obviously drew the short straw, or hell, I wouldn't have been here. Thank you, Darren, for saying nice things. I do appreciate that. You know, I'm old enough to remember speech contests. There's a couple of you in here that may remember them with me. I grew up in a little tiny town in western Nebraska, had 80 people in our high school, not in my class, in the whole high school, 9 through 12. And so we barely had a football team, let alone having a debate team or a forensic team or a speech program. We just had one English teacher who forced us to learn poems, forced us to put together argumentative papers, and took us to this crazy thing that was called a speech contest. And we all went because it was just another opportunity to be a day out of Lyman, Nebraska. It was probably not the most stellar moment of my high school career. I thought I did a pretty good job memorizing the speech or the poem. I didn't think I did a very bad job with the presentation. But the words to Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues didn't seem to set real well with the judge. And 1972 was just a couple of years older than perhaps that song dealt with. You know, I think back to that now. I spent 21 years in the United States Army. I spoke in front of many formations full of soldiers who were forced to speak to me and listen to me. I briefed 4-star generals, I briefed congressmen, I've spoken in many, many venues. And many, many times I went back to that time, and somehow, for whatever reason, I thank Mr. Richard for making me go to the speech contest, not just because it was a day out of school, but because he taught me that you could stand in front of people and you could speak to them and if you were prepared, and if you were somewhat articulate, they would actually pay attention, and if you had a message, they would actually listen. Perhaps the proudest thing I did in the Army, and I did a lot of great things I was proud of, but I memorized the oath of enlistment. And I forced every young officer who was in my command to learn that oath of enlistment. A young man or woman who does their initial tour in the military and then is going to re-enlist and stay in the service of their country deserves someone to give them that oath without a damn 3x5 card in their hand. You need to know what those words are. When you watch the presidential inauguration, you hear those words. A little bit different, but it's still the same speech. I forced everybody to do it. It was an honor to re-enlist a soldier. I learned how to do that. I learned that from Mr. Richard, who allowed me to learn in high school and how to be prepared when I went to my speech contest. Speech, debate, forensics, call it all the things you want to call it. It's probably the most important thing that I can think back into history. I think about all the great speeches that I've heard. I think about the things and how the spoken word has framed what we remember about this world. Hitler, perhaps one of the greatest speakers ever, lied to the German people and lied to all of the world for 7 or 8, 9, 10 years before we figured out what the horror of Nazi Germany was. But if you want to watch a great speaker, watch the crazy little man up there in those old black and white films. Roosevelt, a day that will live in infamy. Kennedy, that's not what you can do for your country. Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream. Ronald Reagan. I always have trouble with this one. It still reminds me of a sad day when I was sitting in the Pentagon. They have slipped the surly bonds of earth and touched the face of God when we talked about the Challenger. Johnny Cochran, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. George W. Bush, when he was explaining how he had fixed something in the military, when he said, the left hand knows what the right hand's going to do. But imagine the power of those few words. What you do every day as you keep the magic of the spoken word alive is important to all of us. This world isn't built on teleprompters and 140-bit or 140-character text messages. It's built on people who can speak, who are prepared to speak, and who can put their point across to other people and make them understand that. You do that every day. You prepare the future leaders of this country. You take care of the military leaders, the government leaders, the civic leaders. The leader of your neighborhood association is being trained, being taken care of, being educated by you. I want to thank you for that, because we are going to lose the ability to speak to one another if in fact we don't continue to train and demonstrate to students how important it is to speak. Nobody works harder at our college than our debate team and our forensic team. And we're very, very proud of 11 years of national championships, and I'm sure Darren's already, pushed that in you. The Elliott brothers, they're pretty damn proud of 11 years of them. Our president's vision for our college is that we are the most progressive, forward-thinking, forward-looking, forward-moving entrepreneurial college in the entire state of Kansas. Part of that falls back on us to be forward-thinking and forward-moving. Darren was very nice to say something about the support the college gives to us. We give as much support to our debate and our forensics team as we do our baseball team, our nationally ranked volleyball team, it is perhaps more important that Kansas City, Kansas Community College produces debate students than it is baseball players. Very few of our baseball players are ever going to make it in the majors. We've had a couple. Our debaters are students at four-year colleges now on scholarships. They're in law school. They will be the leaders that all of us want in the future. They will be the leaders that have been trained in the high schools of Kansas, in the colleges of Kansas, and in the universities of Kansas to make sure that this great country still has great leaders. So I want to welcome you to Kansas City, Kansas Community College. I am about as nervous as I've been since I've spoken to anybody in a long time. But just because in 1972 I didn't do very well, please let me do this. Knights in white satin. Letters I've written, never meaning to send. You have always lived with these eyes before. Just what the truth is, I can't say anymore.
2 o'clock Monday, poetry practice. You're in charge. Let's go ahead and get some food, and we'll have some speakers after we do some eating, so please help yourself in the back and enjoy that. And we'll be back with some more of the program after that.
Well, it's
Help
nice meeting
yourself.
y'all. I don't remember this name. I do all of our athletic stuff, so I've got to head out to the high school football game. You don't even get there.
That really ugly look from your
I'll
past.
survive.
Oh, yeah. Life choices going.
Pretty good. She said we were speaking last night. I got
Patrick's right next door in the middle of the country out here.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. He and I will run into each other from time to time in games. I'll talk to Justin online. Is he still doing both football and wrestling? No, just wrestling. Oh, right on. Good. They moved from right outside of Baser. They're now living stone's throw away from the prison. Dad's still working on post. Mom is she's got her good days and her bad days. She's she's still screwed. Brandon lives out in Jersey now. We just had a kid. Yep. Been married for 4 years now. We live in Lawrence. I went to excellent high. Yeah, so the one with the big gun in town is like I see him, which gives us the good funny write-ups in the Capitol Journal, right? Like Seaman breaks through Trojan. Yes. That's the good one. Yeah. But it's pretty good.
Good. I hope I didn't embarrass you guys.
No, I enjoyed it. I was sitting there with a big old shit in
Yeah, I know that. I'll do it tomorrow morning.
All right.
Okay. Good to see you.
When it's public speaking, then maybe so. Definitely take care of it. I try
not to ask.
Yeah. He was in Patrick's class and